this video, we're going to address something that I think needs to be talked about. Is your computer hurting your lyrics? Let's talk about it. So first of all, a computer is a beautiful, wonderful, powerful device that has an endless amount of distractions. While we're writing our lyrics on our computer, we might say something like, I forgot to order that one thing on Amazon, or I forgot if my credit card is actually on auto pay or not. Or I'll just take a 5-minute break to see what YouTube videos I missed today. Or maybe I'll just scroll through like, I don't know, 3 YouTube shorts. It'll be fine. Maybe we'll just take like 2 minutes to figure out what happened in the world today. But even if you don't give in to those thoughts or desires, that distraction is still there in the back of your mind. Like, I could just click to open a new tab and check on what's going on with that Amazon order, but no, I shouldn't do that. It's sort of like trying to be on a diet and you're trying to have a conversation with somebody, but you see behind them the pizza starting to disappear one slice at a time, and you know you shouldn't eat the pizza, and you know you're trying to talk to this person, and you're definitely not thinking about the pizza, but you know you could eat the pizza. You've been on a diet. You haven't had pizza in weeks or months, and it smells so good. It's gonna be hard to concentrate on talking to somebody when you can see in your peripheral vision that the slices are going one by one by one. So it's sort of a similar thing, right? Where we always know, the option is right there to just watch a YouTube video real quick, or to just check the news real quick. So even that, if we don't give in, can still be a distraction. And also, even good, helpful tools can be distracting. In fact, I'm a huge believer in free online tools like relatedwords.org and thesaurus.com, especially in the lyric editing process. But when we're first just starting to write our lyrics, I'm not so sure that those really have that much of a role. And in fact, they might actually bring more distraction than they're worth when we are first trying to draft our lyrics. And then secondly, there just seems to be something about handwriting that brings something out in us that just doesn't come out with a computer. Even something as simple as the fact that handwriting has a blank canvas that we can draw and write anything we want on the paper. If we're in a Word document or a Google Doc, you can't just decide to do a little doodle or a little drawing on the side that might sort of inspire you with your songwriting. No, you can't even do that. You are restricted to just typing words. Or with pen and paper, you also have the blank canvas of just being able to put words wherever you want, and they don't have to be in a straight line and perfect and all that, which can also be somewhat of a distraction when you're just trying to write down lyrics and you're like, scratch that out, write this other lyric instead, put a little arrow and say, let's try this line instead. You can't do that sort of thing on a Word document or in a Google Doc. And while there are studies out there of handwriting versus typing, unfortunately they all seem to center around studying, but for what it's worth, they have found that students tend to remember things better when they write things down. And really, generally what they've shown is that there's a certain part of our brain that is activated by handwriting that just isn't activated when it comes to typing. In fact, I think this is a part of why handwriting is coming back in the form of things like the Remarkable tablet, which is a pretty expensive tablet where the whole shtick of it is this is just handwriting and it feels like pen and paper. But you get the benefit of it stored on the internet, which is something that we definitely don't want to get rid of. So that's where the Remarkable tablet comes in, is people's desire to go back to handwriting because we see a value in handwriting, but you also want the benefit of the internet with backing up documents and knowing that you can't lose any pages and all of that. And then for what it's worth, I've actually found myself moving back to handwriting, even though I am terrible at handwriting. I have awful handwriting, I'm slow at it, and I'm very fast at typing because I spent basically 15 years of my life doing nothing but typing. So really in the last year, maybe 2 years, it's been that I've started to move back towards having handwriting be a part of my lyric writing process. And specifically, I've really tried to make it that at the beginning of the lyric writing process, I start with just pen and paper. And again, this is going to be purely anecdotal, but I have found that for myself, as somebody who is definitely a very pro computer person, I love using tools from the computer in all parts of songwriting. I am not anti-technology by any measure. And yet, even I, who hates handwriting, whose hand cramps up when he writes for even a short amount of time, is really quite pathetic. Even me, I found that, there's just a certain creative thing that I get back when I am handwriting that I just don't get from a blank Google Doc with that stupid cursor mocking me. Which actually brings me to the last part of this point, which is if you do find yourself in a position where you are looking at that blank cursor, you feel like it's mocking you, and you just have been stuck, and you just feel like, man, I have this rough writer's block and I just can't type words, try switching to handwriting. I think there's something about a Word document or Google Drive doc, whatever it might be, that it just looks so perfect on the page that it feels like there's this pressure to type it right the first time that, at least for me, handwriting just doesn't have. If I just have some random notebook and I'm jotting down notes and lyrics and lyric ideas, there's something freeing about that compared to a Google Doc where it feels like everything is going to be perfectly in line from the get-go, and it just feels like it needs to be perfect. That may or may not apply to you, but if you're somebody who's been struggling at all with writer's block writing on a computer, I'd highly encourage you just give paper and pen a shot once again. So I think the main question here is, should we put the computer away when we are doing lyric writing? And my personal opinion is that we probably should put it away early on in the process and at any step of the process where we don't actually need the computer or need any of the benefits that a computer can bring us. So for me personally, most of the beginning stages of the lyric writing process I actually just do on pen and paper. When I'm drafting the first version of lyrics and really just doing a lot of lyric writing, okay, let's try this verse, let's try this verse, let's rewrite the verse again, let's try writing a verse from a different point of view. All of that sort of thing, I find moving back to pen and paper has been really, really helpful. But then when it gets to the editing stage of lyrics, where I think I have a pretty good overall draft of the lyrics, but now I want to sort of hone in on individual words or individual lines, and I kind of want to figure out, is there a better verb that I could use there, or a better noun there? Or maybe is there a way that I can reword this line that just makes it a little tighter or a little more profound? That is usually when I will actually take the lyrics from the pen and paper and move them onto the computer. And then from there, it's way easier to sort of go through that editing process, and I can see all the different drafts that I have. I can utilize tools like thesaurus.com and relatedwords.org to sort of get more words that might be helpful when I'm really trying to edit the lyric to tighten it up and get it to where it needs to be. Really getting it from that good draft to that final edited product where I really can feel good about every single word. So for yourself, I would encourage you to ask yourself some of these same questions. What parts of the lyric writing process do I actually benefit from a computer? And even if I do benefit from the computer in certain ways, like I can type faster and things like that, is it worth the trade-off of maybe that lack of creativity that sometimes comes from a computer, or just sometimes a blank page on a computer seems like it's more intimidating than a blank page of plain paper? Or depending on who you are, you might find that thoughts just flow more naturally on pen and paper. There's a reason that still most people journal on pen and paper. So this is something that you need to determine for yourself, but I know that even as somebody who leans very far towards pro computer and utilize all the technology that we have, even me has found that, you know what, going back to having some parts of the lyric writing process be totally technology free, just plain pen and paper, has been really helpful to me. So it might be something that's helpful to you as well. If you haven't already, be sure to check out my free 6-step lyric writing checklist, separating out the process into clear steps, where some steps are more in the development stage, some are actually writing, and then finally we get into the editing process. Really helps because it really gives us that nice separation where we can actually start where we put on our writer's hat, where we're just a creative person and we're not being picky about any ideas. We're like, any and all ideas are great, let's just explore. And then after that, we can switch hats to an editor hat, where we're now going to be a little bit more of a jerk to ourselves. We're going to be more picky now. We're no longer going to be somebody that's like, oh, I like everything. No, now we're like, no, that's a bad idea. That was a good idea. Let's refine that and make that better. And having different steps in the process helps to do that in a way that if we just try to have a mess of, oh, I just kind of do all of it at once, it's really hard to have our brains swap back and forth. Really just sets ourselves up to fail. So be sure to check that out, songwritertheory.com/lyric checklist. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. I'll talk to you in the next one.